We might have lost signal, but we're back. Yeah, when I started getting into gear and stuff like that, trying to be a big old squatter, I sucked because I started going out too wide too soon. So I had to pull them in a little bit, and that's one thing. You have to have strong hips if you're going to squat wide. That's one thing you definitely want to work on. And I still have to work on my hip strength to make sure that when I get to the hole, I can keep my knees out, because that's the biggest thing. That's one of the biggest keys. You hear us both harping on it, is keeping your knees out. You never see anybody squat big weight like that. Okay, so that's going to be the big thing, is to strengthen your hips up, and when you come down, you want to force your knees out and force your hips back, just like that. It's a combination of the two, keeping your knees out and pushing back when it comes to like geared squatting, especially because with him, he said, when he was narrow stance squatting, he pretty much went straight down. But when you're wide stance, you've got to push back. You've got to arch. You've got to push back to keep your knees up. So what you want to do, have toe turn out just a little bit, not quite as exaggerated as him when he was, doing the penguin squat. You good? No. Not as exaggerated as his like penguin squat looked, because that looks kind of funny to me. But it's about the same out here. It doesn't look as funny because you're super wide, but you've got a good base. A lot of people, like turning their feet way out. Then you kind of tend to have some balance issues. I've seen it's a bad feeling when you go to stand up with a weight and you're falling backwards. So to correct that, you want to have, I don't know what kind of, is that about a 35, 40 degree angle?
About a 35.
Okay. About that angle, I don't really do angles, I just do kind of by feel. So wherever it feels like you've got a good solid push, a good base, but you don't want to be straight on, because then you can't really open your hips up too much. Now, if you've got a wide stance raw squatter, a lot of times they will have their feet facing a little bit more forward, because it kind of creates a little bit more tension and torque in the hips. But that's kind of an advanced thing that if it works for you, that's great. I don't recommend a lot of people doing it, because not a lot of people can do it. Definitely give it a try though. But we'll kind of demonstrate a few things. Other stuff that I really want to harp on is bar position. Bar position is very important, especially when you're wide stance squatting, because you don't have as good a balance as you do close. So you want to get the bar farther down your back. That's going to help create better leverage for you, so you can sit back farther. So you want to get nice and tight up under the bar, create a shelf with your traps, and then you want to set up. You want to be rock solid before you start going down, because if you're off balance, you start going down, you're going to be all over the place. So when you come out, make sure you set up. Now you'll notice the bar is pretty far down my back. That means that I can't stand straight up with it, otherwise it's going to roll down my back. Okay? So one thing that you'll have to find out is how much of a lean you need to have. I see a lot of people, they come out, they look like this. That's making your back do a whole lot more work than it needs to. Okay? But what you want to do is stand up with a weight and have your back locked in, even if you have a little bit of forward lean. And then you start your hips back and your knees out.
While we have Dale down here, I'm going to bring something up. If everyone looks here at the side, the way he has his bar and the way his hips are pushed back, we are still over the midfoot. So from where we were talking about the bar path earlier, that's why we do the different things that we do in the different stances, as far as pushing the knees out or pushing the hips back a little bit more, is we're always trying to keep the straightest bar path that we can possibly have to keep everything over that midfoot. That's what helps keep us balanced.
Oh, I'm sweating. Not warmed up. What else did we want to say about that? Anything else? Okay. you just want to make sure that you lock your arch in down there. You get your arch from the start, and you want to maintain that through the whole squat. Like I said, my arch is not huge. I've got a little bit of forward lean, so my arch is not, as pronounced, but it stays the same. You don't want to be moving around and collapsing and stuff like that, because when you got, big weight on your back, if you lose your arch, it ain't coming back. You're not going to find it again. So things to remember, moderate turnout, toe turnout on the wide stance squat. Not so much that you lose your balance, but enough so that you can open your knees up. Sitting back with the weight, so the weight will travel kind of in your best leverage part. Is one thing that you definitely want to focus on, because if you go straight down, your knees are going to come forward, the bar's going to go over you, and you're not going to come up a big weight that way. Anything else you want to wrap up?
One thing that I want everyone to think about, while we're doing these videos, if you happen to be a squatter who's possibly been stuck, or you're at a little bit of a plateau and you've been racking your brain trying to figure out how to get out of that plateau or rut, whatever you want to call it, maybe try messing with some of these different stances a little bit. If you're constantly a narrow stance squatter, go ahead and maybe step out for a little bit and try that mid stance. Or if you're a close stance, go ahead and go to a wide stance for a little while. All you're going to be doing is just training different angles of your muscles. It's not that you're doing a different movement, you're still squatting. It's just now you're training the body in a different way. You're making different muscles stronger. Because from always being a raw guy who is now starting to mess with gear a little bit, one of the biggest differences that I can see as I'm getting adjusted to my gear is the muscles that are a little bit weaker from years upon years of nothing but closed stance squatting. So go ahead and dabble with those a little bit. Don't be afraid to mess with things like front squats and everything as well. You're still squatting, you're just training different muscles.
Yeah, definitely step outside your comfort zone. Like I said, I'm a geared lifter, and last year I did a raw meet for the first time. So I did a lot of squat variations, kind of opened my eyes up to a lot of different ways to train. I train, high bar squats. I train, close stance squats, stuff like that. And one thing that I noticed was, my raw squat went up fast because I was doing different stuff that I haven't ever done before. What also happened, even though I didn't really pull all that much, my deadlift went up too. It made a pretty quick jump to where, I was struggling with like 6.5, 675. I might be able to lock it out conventional because I was a sumo puller, because I would always squat wide, so I pulled wide too. To where, I went to the raw meet, and in like, I think 4 months of raw training, I PR'd like 710. So, I put a good bit of weight on, my deadlift by changing up my squat style. Just because I trained the weaker muscles that I, like you said, been neglecting for a while. So keep tuning in. Next time we're going to do our squat video. We're going to go a little bit more in depth, get a little bit more advanced stuff, different things that you can do to kind of break through plateaus. And if you have questions, or you're like, you kind of went into this, but I'd like a little bit more information on it, let us know. We'll either cover it on the Ustream, or send you a video response, or shoot you an email, something like that. So if you got questions, definitely let us know. But next week, I know we've got another Ustream video coming up. I can't remember what we've got, but we'll keep tuning in to Facebook, the Twitter, Tumblr, all that kind of stuff. We've always got new information coming up on that to keep everybody on the loop.